Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of JuJutsu Kaisen, chapter 210. I think it's the first chapter JuJutsu Kaisen review I've done since my huge break and return, so that's interesting. I'm not going to bother doing a recap of last chapter. More or less, soldiers have entered the Culling Games. The Kenjaku Yuki fight has ended. Kenjaku won. And now we're back to Yuji, Megami, Takaba, and Angel, and all the hijinks going on with that. And we're kind of seeing like how things are going to develop with the soldiers, right? This chapter starts off right. We have like a flashback. Angel, as we find out in the chapter, but basically find out like for some reason this curse is pretending to be the parent of a bunch of, I guess, abandoned kids. And basically they're kind of like in a life adjusted, they're basically kidnapped. There's like a kidnapper, and if anyone brings up the fact that that's not their mother, they die. They probably get eaten. So they all just kind of like be there and just get parented by this multi-faced creature. It's kind of gross, but we got away from that, and we do come back to the flashback later. But basically we we see the soldier that Yuji and Megami are kind of integrating, but mostly Megami, because Yuji's not built for these kind of situations. There's this guy, and basically the soldier is like, hey, I don't really know all the details, but as we saw with the discussion between Kenjaku and the US president, we realized that the offer made is that they can use curse energy to be like a new power source. Now we all already know that Kenjaku's this is not why he sent the armies in. He's not actually like the armies, and what he's told them is not his goal. He does not care about them getting cursed energy, and he doesn't really intend for them to get cursed energy. He has his thing that he's doing, and he just knew that would sound good to them, right? And so the soldier kind of knows about that, but not all the details, like the officials who give them their orders, right? And as the soldiers explain the situation, Mikey's kind of analyzing it. He's like, Kenjaku, he comes to the conclusion that Kenjaku's probably bullshitting, and that the soldiers coming in is just for their deaths, creating more cursed energy to do whatever bomb or next step in the plan is anyway, and they're all basically sacrifices, and the goal is not about that, as I just said. And Megami comes up with the actually interesting hypothesis about the idea that Kenjaku may have made the Culling Games complicated so that then the heroes, quote unquote, I don't think Kenjaku thinks of them as heroes, obviously they're just used to sorcerers, but I guess you would say the heroes and the people who are like participating in the Culling Games won't really pay attention. If they know about Kenjaku, they won't really pay attention to like his going on, because they'll be like, oh my god, this thing, we gotta stop this thing, and they'll be bogged down by all these complicated rules and trying to understand the game, then trying to change the rules of the game, because that's what they give. I think that's the point of him giving them the rules, that then they're spending time trying to create rules to like help the people, that they don't realize that like, oh, there's still like a whole separate part to the game that comes past the point of like the rules and all that, all the actual details of the game and like the purpose of the game. If you get what I mean, you get what I mean. But basically he's like, oh, like he really planned this out. Like he actually came up with like a great, I guess you could say a good bluff of like, you're not gonna bother me because you're too worried about my game, but you don't even understand that by playing the game in any manner instead of just beating me up, you're losing. And it's working pretty well, right? And so from there, past this section where they all get caught up on all the details, more or less, Yuji's like, well, we gotta save these soldiers, right? I mean, I know they're trying to kidnap us, but clearly they're sacrifices by Kenjaku, and they're not really bad people, so we might as well help them. And Angel, not Kurusu, not the girl herself, but like Angel's like, fuck no, I'm not helping these people, all right? Too many people have already died. The top players have killed a bunch of people, regular players have killed a bunch of people, going back and forth. By this point, saving the soldiers isn't really going to serve a purpose. There's probably enough cursed energy already out as we speak anyway. And Yuji's like, and so Angel's like, let me spell it out for you. It's pointless, all right? Don't be putting me in danger, all right? It's not gonna serve any purpose. Yuji, so what? And from there, Angel once again pleads her case, like, hey, we're not doing this, all right? We were, me and Kurusu are a package deal. I say we're not doing it. Kurusu's not gonna do it. Don't be trying to drag us up into some wild stuff. And Yuji basically kind of goes off. He's like, I ain't trusting you guys anyway, yada yada yada. And it's kind of awkward because it's kind of like Yuji's almost never aggressive. Like Mahito's like the one exception. He's never aggressive. So it's kind of weird seeing him kind of like, I don't say antagonize, but like be the aggressor in a conversation, right? And Kurusu is kind of like talking to Yuji, and she's like, when you said you didn't trust any of us, like, were you talking about me or you talking about Angel? And then I assume we get a cutaway, because then we see Kurusu's face. She's like, how disgusting. And so my guess is that follow up, we see like a curse basically using humans, like some of the soldiers, as like bait, because they just weren't prepared for what they were getting into, and they're being used as bait to like capture other curse spirits, and then that curse has smaller curses that it uses to eat. It basically is fishing using humans as bait. It's crazy stuff, but I'm guessing Kurusu's looking at that, not necessarily responding to Yuji. I'm assuming Yuji kind of doesn't respond exactly. I think it's just like he kind of just looks at her and walks away, and it's kind of like left open-ended on what he means. Like he's referring to both of them, just referring to one of them, whatever. We gotta get an explanation on this, but moving on, right? The curses are eating the people. Well, they're basically being used as bait. It's a terrible situation for them because, I mean, obviously they're horribly damaged and like just sitting out there, whatever, have a hook through them, all that stuff. Shit sucks. We get the perspective of a regular soldier, and he's basically like, hey, I was prepared to die, but this is inhumane on a level that isn't just chemical warfare. This is not it. All right, and so we cut away from that. Yuji and Megumi are talking. Megumi's kind of like talking to Yuji. He's like, hey, you acting weird back there. Usually don't do weird things. What was that about? And Yuji kind of plays dumb, and we get a little cutaway. More of the backstory. Basically, to sum it up, it seems like the girl is Kurusu, as I mentioned. Megumi's divine dogs, one of them, the white one, ends up passing by the area, and the girl follows the dog. She gets to safety. We see Megumi and Gojo pass by. They get the dog, they see the girl, but they don't really help her, which is very JuJutsu Sorcerer of them, like, to not help the girl who clearly needs help. They're just kind of like, not our problem, and they go up on her business. But she like becomes kind of attached because that's Megumi's dog, and she's like, oh, you know, he saved me, blah blah blah. But in reality, again, knowing Megumi, he probably did not care, which is why he didn't bother trying to help her. But she feels connection to him, and that's how they know each other from the past. And so it's debatable whether Megumi knows who she is exactly, but you can kind of move on from that. Right. Came back to the present. Kurusu saves this guy. They have like this, like, I forgot it's like the famous painting where like the god's about to touch man finger. I think it's like an Adam and God painting. Not 100% sure, but nonetheless, right? We have this cool panel. And basically we have Kurusu basically being like, hey, I want to like be someone who could stand by Megumi, yada yada yada. That's her whole point. Right. And we cut back to Megumi and Yuji's conversation. And basically it just comes down to Yuji feels weird about Kurusu. It basically was kind of on edge in the conversation because he feels like Kurusu's gonna basically become the new part of the trio and basically replace Nobara, which was, you know, their old third teammate. Everybody knows Nobara. And yeah, it's like you can kind of see, like, you can see the logic there is like kind of sad because like it's a third girl, so it's a little different than just having like a third guy there, where it's kind of like, oh, you know, it's just an extra teammate. But like this feels like kind of like a proper third teammate who's gonna like stick with them proper. So it's kind of like weird for him, which is why he kind of wasn't. That's why he was so like angry at them and kind of like mad about the fact, like, you just didn't like her opinion, you didn't like her presence, which like got angry. And Megumi's basically like, you're being stupid, apologize and be nice. And Kurusu comes in from on high and she's basically like, yeah, so they say to me, the little cute little wink or whatever. I'm like, did she hear what they said, or she just kind of, because you know, Gege likes to do things like that, where he's like, I mean, he literally did it earlier in this chapter, where it's kind of like you have a character look like they're responding to something that's said, but in reality it's like at a different time or in reference to something else. So it's like you try to connect the two, but in reality they're not supposed to go together. So that could be the situation going on here. Even though she is showing up, she may not have heard their conversation and therefore is referencing somewhere else, something else. Maybe just saving the guy even. Anyway, also there's Takuba. Takuba's at the end of the chapter for absolutely no reason. He's just there. He's the last panel. So good for him. Anyway, it's the end of the chapter. And overall, good chapter. I think this chapter is basically like a cool down. You come off the Yuki stuff. We're getting back into the soldier stuff. You know, just a little transition chapter. I feel like next chapter things are gonna heat up again. It seems that soldiers are not important, but I think that the next step is one of two things. Either we're gonna have another chapter where we have Megumi, Yuji, and Kurusu and Takuba and whoever else working together to save the soldiers or whatever. Or we will have Kenjaku. We'll start seeing what the effects of, like, okay, the curse energy levels are hitting what they need to be for the next step. This is the next step. Or else Kenjaku mentioned the next step or something. We're going to start getting into that. I feel like that's the direction we're going in. Because we don't really need to spend time saving people. Because at the end of the day, it's just regular cursed spirits. So outside of like a special appearance or something like some crazy powerful cursed spirit showing up, I think it's going to be relatively like normal business for them, and an easy business at that, seeing as Kurusu just kind of shows up and saves the guy, which therefore means he got rid of the curse or whatever. So that's my thought process. But yeah, that's kind of it for the chapter. Not too much to discuss here. With it all being said, thanks for watching, and catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Watch more of my videos here. Goodbye.